an author, by the way, just so you know. Leanne, the question I ask is the question of the week, and that question is, do you believe in ghosts?
I absolutely believe in ghosts.
Okay. Now, most people are too afraid to say that. Most people are like, no, but why? Do you have a reason?
Now this is going to turn into a completely different show.
Well, it was going to do that anyway. If you haven't watched, I take this on a weird. We'll promote your book and stuff. It's down there for ghosts.
To go. I actually have someone who does see spirits.
Really?
Yes, very
like they
question.
physically see a spirit there. Can they communicate with them, or how does it work?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I don't have any doubts because I've seen it happen live in front of me.
Fair enough. Now your book.
You want to talk about the book? This will be a whole other show. We'll invite her.
Well, I definitely could. I interview literally everyone from big celebs to psychics to weirdos of all kinds. That's the whole point of the show. Sorry, that's weird. So your book,
yes.
you wrote a book, and can you tell me about where the idea came from and what it's all about?
Well, my ex-husband, who's my son's dad, was adopted, and he passed away in 2013, and we decided to do my son's DNA. My son and I decided to do my son's DNA and see if we could find his birth family. It had been a big deal for him to be adopted, and he always wanted to know. When we were married, I tried to help him. That was before DNA came along. So once I got my son registered we did Ancestry, we did 23andMe, and I became obsessed. So I would sit at night and work on family trees and look at matches, and it's like this huge piece of puzzle that you have to put all the pieces together. And we found his entire birth family. So we found relatives that lived right near us in Florida, and we found everybody, put all the pieces together. And when I finally saw a picture of his birth mother, it looked just like him. Looked just like him.
That's amazing. When you're writing this book, obviously it's not the story of that, is it? You've created.
That obsession with DNA is what turned me into writing this book. So when I was doing that hunt, I actually found a lot of secrets. So there's a lot of secrets that people take to the grave, or they think they're going to take to the grave, that people now with DNA are unburying. And so I just started thinking, once I started uncovering all these secrets and hearing other people's stories, I was like, this needs to be a book series about all the secrets that people are uncovering that people thought they would never find out. And so that's really what started my wheels turning. And so this is the first book in a series, which will ultimately be the DNA Duo series. So this is the first book sort of setting it up. And then the two main characters are so affected by what DNA uncovers for them that they open up a DNA detective agency and they start to solve cases.
Now, DNA detective work wouldn't be the same as traditional detective work where they're finding clues that are physical out in the world. It would be more discovering who's related to each other and stuff like that, would it not?
Correct. Absolutely. So basically they take DNA from a crime scene, they turn it into just like the kind of DNA you and I would turn into Ancestry or 23andMe, and they upload it to a site and start to find relatives and start to build that tree down to the person who committed the crime.
And I'm assuming it's not crimes all the time. I'm assuming they find weird clues like Aunt Sally was actually making babies with Uncle Tom instead of her actual husband and things like that, right?
Oh, there's a lot of that, yes. I mean, my book isn't focused on the crime aspect yet, although that's really been a big thing lately. Mine is more on the family secrets. But yeah, there's
awesome.
a lot of them. There's more than you would think.
People were frisky back in the day, so I understand. So when you're writing, it's from your own brain. Do the characters in the book, are they ever based on other people, or are they completely 100% based on what's in your head?
They're definitely based on people. There's two main female characters. One of them is primarily based on me, and the other is based on my best friend, with everything except that she wasn't adopted. She's totally the inspiration for that. But But no, there's names throughout my book that are all based on somebody. So I think a lot of people are now reading the book and they're like, oh, look, there I am. Like people from my past, lots of characters are named after people I know. So that's the fun part of it. And if you don't really like somebody, you can kill them off.
That's fantastic. And it leads to more DNA stuff later, right?
Right.
When you are writing and let's say you do kill somebody off, you don't like them anymore. Do they make the decision on that? So a lot of authors say they almost have not voices, but the characters come to life in their head, and it's almost like a real person that you're fighting with to get what's ready. Do they ever say it's time for me to die? It's time for me to not be here anymore? That sounds horrible, doesn't it? But
I'll be honest. Nobody died in the first book. There will be some people dying in the second book, but nobody died in the first book. So nobody really reached out and said, I need out. Can you write me out? I want to end my contract. Let me out. No, they'll go when I'm ready for them to go. But nobody died in the first book.
Okay. When you write, do you ever find the writing takes a life of its own? Does it take, all of a sudden, do you have to write for 3 days straight or something like that? Like you're a crazy old, I don't know, 1800s writer and you go into a manic thing? Does that make sense? It's weird.
No,
but
it absolutely does. You sort of become obsessed because they feel like friends. When you start writing about them so much, they sort of feel like your friends. And you do become obsessed. And for me, that sometimes is a problem. I'm not a full-time writer. I have a full-time job. So I really have to sort of split my focus. So if I got ideas swirling in my head and I'm supposed to be on a conference call, it doesn't go well. So there are times when I would love to sit down and start writing. And really, this book took life at night, on weekends. I took vacation time from my job, days off. That's really, I like to reserve like a big block of time. So I want to write on a Saturday for 8 hours, or I want to write on a holiday for 8 hours. To do some people get up at 4 a.m. and they're like, oh, I get up at 4 a.m. I write for 2 hours every day. I wouldn't be able to go to work. I would be like, no, I'm not done. So I wouldn't be able to go to work if that happens. So I sort of have to space my big block of time so I can get stuff done.
That's very important. When did the book come out? How old is your book, or is it already?
It's officially released on May 15th.
Okay, so May 15th. So this baby's brand new. What's the name of the book? Because I have your name scrolling on the bottom, but the name of the book from your own mouth would be awesome. Where Truth Hides.
And if you haven't figured out where the truth hides,
it's under a bed. No, just kidding.
It's in your DNA.
I gotta play it up a little bit. So, what are some of the things that you discovered, if you're allowed to say, when you were doing your son's or your own DNA research? What were some of the things that you didn't expect to actually discover, if you're allowed to say? Because
I think I'm allowed to say. Well, when we first got his ancestry matches, he had this match that was his top match. And I figured out who she was pretty quickly. I mean, you'd be amazed at the information that's out there that you can sleuth out anybody. I'm an expert at that now. But her whole tree was Italian, which was really strange. But her ethnicity was, I want to say, 49% European Jewish. So my ex-husband was Jewish, and we thought both of his birth parents were Jewish. And I could not figure out where this woman fit in, like for the life of me. She wouldn't respond to any of my messages. And so finally, we got a match on 23andMe that sort of led us in the right direction. So she finally did call me one day, and I said, listen, I don't want to upset your apple cart, because I think when I solve my mystery, I'm going to solve yours because you have a mystery. And she was pretty good about it. And she finally, she had her sister test, and they didn't come up as full sisters. So it turned out that my ex-husband's birth mother, her parents, this woman was the illegitimate child of his birth mother's father. And she was raised as another man's daughter. And the person who actually helped me sort of give me all the information was his birth mother's brother. So his birth mother's brother, he did his ancestry test, and he didn't come back as the father's child at all. He came back as the mother's with somebody else. So the father had one with someone else, and the mother had one with somebody else.
That's crazy. Holy cow.
Right.
So Renee Wilson has a question. Hi, Renee. I get questions on here. Look at that. Anyway, Renee has a question. You said that you're writing another book in this series. Will the series have all of the same characters as the first book, or will it change up?
Nope, the main characters, yes. So the two main characters in this book are Becky and Jules. They're best friends. And Becky and Jules will go on to open up the DNA detective agency. So they will move on to the next book. It'll be about them and whatever case they're solving.
So you talk about a second book. This almost seems to me like a, I don't mean to sound cheesy, but Nancy Drew or the Hardy Boys. It seems like it could be expanded for forever to discover new and different things, right? There could be one about murders. There could be one about marriage. There could be one about Lord knows what, right?
There's so many things out there. We could go on forever.
Yeah, that's awesome. So in your research about DNA and how accurate it is, how accurate are they actually getting now? Because 30 years ago, it wasn't very accurate at all. How close are they getting now?
Well, I'll tell you, it's really funny. The woman who was Italian, that she just really didn't want to believe she wasn't her father's daughter, she went out and did her DNA again at 23andMe, and it came out exactly the same. She did another test with Ancestry, and it came out exactly the same. So it doesn't lie. I mean, that's the common thing that people who are into DNA say. You know, people lie and history lies, but DNA doesn't lie. So DNA will take you to the right person. Ultimately, when you find the right person, you'll know. I've never found anybody and I help a lot of people now, and I've never found somebody's birth mother or father or half sister that it hasn't turned out to be exactly who it's supposed to be.
That's awesome. When you're helping people, because you've helped people, what's the process start off for people that are looking for help and stuff for finding their birth mother or finding whatever it is in their history? What's the process start off as?
Well, I don't do it officially. You know, I can't resist. I was actually helping someone last night, and she's like, "Oh my God, thank you so much for helping me." I'm like, "I can't resist. I'm addicted. It's a puzzle to solve." But the one place that I always recommend people go is Facebook. There's several big sites on Facebook. So DNA Detectives is one that really helped me. And then there's another one called Search Squad, and they have what they call search angels. That if you reach out, they're all volunteers. They will help. You know, eventually when they get around to it. But the person who actually came up with DNA Detectives is a woman named Cece Moore. So if you've ever seen any episode on 60 Minutes, Dateline, 48 Hours, any of those shows where there's a DNA component, it's Cece. She was really a pioneer. And so now she has a new show called The Genetic Detective. So I don't know if you have that where you are. It just started last week. It's on Tuesday nights at 10. That's like my holy grail. It's like she solved crimes using DNA now. So that's what the show is about.
That's amazing. We didn't have this technology even 30 years ago. Where do you see, well, I guess we can all tell where DNA is going to go, but let's get back to the writing. How long did it take you to actually write the book and get it edited and all the rest of it?
It took me a long time. It started out, I actually went to a writing retreat in Arizona, and it was billed as write your book in a weekend. So I'm like, I got a book in a whole weekend. I'll go out there, I'll write my book. And so I will say that I did leave Arizona after 4 days with the shell of the book from beginning to end. You know, the idea of it fleshed out. And there were things I was like, I don't even remember writing that. It did take me several years because I'm absolutely a perfectionist, and I was not ready to let it go until I thought it was the best book that I could possibly write. I mean, I'd never done it before, and I really felt like I needed guidance. I wasn't going to just publish anything. I was never going to go there unless I knew. And so my first editor, I'm a little scared for her because it was probably a 500-page book at that point. And so she helped me a lot. And then I had another coach that helped me. And then I found a great mentor, editor in another author. So he helped me really propel it across the finish line. So it took the better part of 3 years. Book 2 will not take that long.
You know, it says something about you that you took that long to write the book or your book, because a lot of people just put something out there. I've done it myself. I wrote a book in 14 days, edited, done, out into the world because I couldn't have it inside me anymore. You wrote the
Right.
book and took the effort to get it edited and all the rest of it, which a lot of self-published authors don't do that. And I think that that's why self-publishing sometimes has a bad rap, if that makes sense, because it's not a professionally done product. The authors I've been talking to lately, I've talked to a lot of authors in the last week, probably 20 in the last 2 weeks. And when I talk to them, I can tell who's actually a professional and who wants to do this professionally. Hello, puppy dog, by the way. And
there's no getting around it.
Just wait till my Satan children come down here. It happens. But I see that you're being a professional. I want to thank you for that, because there's so many self-published books that just are not professional in any way, shape, or form, and just don't come out very well. Now, Elsie,
for the people who do take the time, that hurts the rest of us who do want to be professional about it.
Yeah, yeah, and don't get me wrong. I think everybody should be allowed to publish whatever they want within reason, right? If it's hate speech, of course not. But take the time to make it. If you're going to make a statement, make it a proper statement that you can defend, and a proper book that you can actually defend and be proud of, versus throwing out a piece of garbage into the world. Elsie Danneman. Hi, Elsie. Hi. Has a question as well. Leanne, do you see yourself helping police solve crimes ever, or just uncovering family secrets? Are you going to be one of those weird psychic TV people?
It's crazy, because ever since this show came out, people are like, you really should offer your services to the police department, or you should really help CC. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll get right on that. It's like, if I knew someone in the police department that said, would you help us? I absolutely would. I don't see it being a second career or a third career at this point. I got enough on my plate, but it's fascinating. If I could go back in time and know this was a potential, career, I might have changed my ideas, but I would love to. I don't know that I see it happening quite yet, but if someone asked me to help, I would absolutely help.
That's awesome. Where do you see your books going? Do you see it just as book number 2, book number 3, or is it just one at a time that you're worried about?
It's really one at a time, as a continuing series. I also have this other book that's kind of knocking around in my brain that's not related, that's just dying to get out. It's just a byproduct of time, honestly. And I think the next ones are not going to take nearly as long. I learned a lot, in the process of having this take 3 years. But I just see the mystery series continuing with, hopefully, there's an opportunity to insert some separate books in there, because I do have some other books I want to write. I'm not too far off. I know I don't look that old, but I'm not too far off that I might actually be able to retire in a couple of years, if things go well. I've been at my job for 24 years. So.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Sorry, I apologize. You look much younger than that. I'm 35 and I look like I'm 60. So good on you. When you talk about your other job, and we're not going to mention it unless you want to, but you have experience at your other job. Do you find that experience that from that position is going to help you to promote the book a lot?
Well, when I first decided to self-publish, I thought, well, that's going to require a lot of marketing. And I was like, okay, well, that's stupid, because that's what I do for a living. Like, if I can't market my book, but what I have learned is, so my full-time job is actually for Coca-Cola. So I've been doing marketing for 24 years. So it is a little different to market a debut novel versus one of the #1 trademarks in the world. There's a slight
Just a tiny bit.
A little bit. So, and I really, truly believe, and this is why it took so long, that if you're going to go out and market yourself, you got to believe in what you're selling. And so I knew that I had to make sure I had the best book possible, or I was not going to want to shout it from the rooftops and get people to try to buy it, or read it, or provide feedback on it. So once I first started putting it out in the world to people I didn't know, and they were coming back, I loved it. I couldn't put it down. I never saw the ending coming. I was like, oh, okay. Then I was like, all right, okay.
Would you consider your book a mystery, or that the people are solving along while reading it, or would you consider it something else?
They're not solving it, but what I will say is it's a domestic suspense. So domestic suspense is not meant to start the roller coaster on page one necessarily. It's sort of meant to build it over time. And as it goes along, you're sort of left with I don't really know what's going on, but I think it's this. Oh no, now I think it's this. And then when you finally get to the end, you're like, I didn't see that coming at all. So that's sort of the goal, is that you don't get anybody to the end where they've actually guessed how it ends. And so far, I don't know anybody that has.
So it's a non-violent DNA thriller.
I didn't say it was non-violent completely. I just said nobody died.
Oh. Michelle, I'm not.
But
Michelle has asked a question about initial sales, and I'm not going to ask you about initial sales because it's not rude, but I'm assuming we're going to say you've sold 7 million books already. Okay. She's sold 7 million books, everybody.
It's a first book. I know it's a good book. It just needs to get in front of the right people. And then I know people will enjoy it. So it's just a matter of getting the word out there. It's been out for 2 weeks. And so at this point, it's doing well. I'm always shocked when I see people buying it. So, when I watch the page reads go up every day because it's on Kindle Unlimited, I'm like, okay, like 10 people read it today. And I was like, that's 10 people I don't know, I don't think. So that's sort of, gives you that confidence that people you don't know are reading it, or I'll see a review and I'm like, I don't even know this person, so that was good.
That's awesome. Michelle says sorry. Here's the thing, Michelle. I do apologize. The truth is it's just rude to ask somebody's wage, right? No matter what. That's why I didn't want to ask how many books. And as I'm just a weird person, right? It'd be like asking somebody who they voted for. Frankly, it's not going to change your mind anyway. So that's all it is. Michelle, I want to thank you she's down there somewhere in the comments. Thank you for watching the video. I truly appreciate that you're here. Leanne, is there anything else about the book that you want to tell people that I haven't covered, that you really want to get out there so people know?
I do. It is aimed at women. So there's just a couple of really key issues. So I really felt strongly that I wanted to tell certain stories. I wanted to tell the story of Jules, who's adopted, and using DNA. And I really wanted to tell that adoption story with authenticity of how it feels to be adopted, to educate people about how it does feel to be adopted. And she had great parents, but that didn't stop the way she felt inside, that she had to know. Why was she given up? What was her story? It didn't change anything about the fact that she needed to know. And then the other main character, her best friend, she's married, she's going through IVF, she suffers from infertility, all she wants is a baby. So those were two really important issues I wanted to tackle in the book. And they're best friends. They're each other's people, and I really wanted to tell that story about two women who could be best friends and tackle life together without it being this competitive thing, or without it being this, petty, one's prettier than the other. They're each other's female soulmates. And so that was an important tale I wanted to tell too.
That's awesome. I like that. It seems almost therapeutic in a sense, which most good books do, right? It's a release and an understanding, a perspective that we might not have had before. I think that's it. Where do people find your book and yourself to purchase the book?
It's on Amazon. So it's on a variety of places, but the main place is Amazon. It's also on barnesandnoble.com, and the Kindle version is on the Unlimited. If you have a subscription to Kindle Unlimited, you can read it over there at Amazon.
And whoa, one sec. For those of you watching, if you don't read the book till the end, the author doesn't get paid on Kindle Unlimited. So make sure you read the damn book to the end. Sorry, even if I apologize for stopping you.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, you get paid on the pages. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I didn't mean to be rude and stop you.
No, I forgot what I was saying because I'm old. But it's on Kindle Unlimited. You can get the Kindle version. You can get it on Amazon. You can get a paperback. You can get it at barnesandnoble.com.
Okay.
I think that's it. And then my website is leannecarman.com. So if you are interested in DNA, I kind of tackle some of that stuff. And I've been talking about Cece's new show, The Genetic Detective, and trying to break that out and make it make sense for people. But if you know somebody that's adopted, really the best place to have them start is to do their DNA and have them start with DNA Detectives, because that's a great resource.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we've come to the end. Oh, Michelle Davis says she loves it. Did you see that? Does that actually come up on your screen?
It just did. It just did. She read the book and she loved it.
Awesome. And there's also this one. It's from Stacy. Look, Stacy, your face is there. She says she's waiting for the movie. I didn't know I could do this, and it was actually a mistake that I started with it. So I'm sorry.
I love it.
Welcome to live video feeds. Leanne, I do want to thank you for coming. I truly am honored that you're good. You're nice enough to come on my show, and I hope that you sell a ton of books. For those people who are watching, make sure you go buy some of Leanne's books and help her out.
The dog's back.
Hi, puppy. Anyway, so Leanne, thank you so much for being on. The last question I always end off with one question, and it has nothing to do with your book. It has everything to do with you as a person. Now, if you don't want to share, that's okay. But in this time where we're all theoretically locked up, not supposed to go out, what's one thing you've done for yourself other than this interview today to make yourself happy?
I've done a lot of reading. And when I say I've been locked up, I work from home anyway. I've always worked from home. So it wasn't, it eliminated some of the travel in my life where I didn't have to travel as much. But I've read so much lately.
What have you read?
I read what I write. So I read suspense thrillers. I read really fast, but I retain very little. I don't know how to explain it other than if I'm in a book club and I happen to read the book too early, by the time the book club discussion comes around, I don't even remember what it's about. It's a byproduct of having way too much in my head. So once I am on to the next book, there are some that stick with me. I really like this book, Verity by Colleen Hoover. That one, I remember what it's about because it stayed with me. I did read The Nightingale, which is a historical fiction book, a huge historical fiction book that people loved. Not a historical fiction fan. I really want to be entertained, and I really like the thriller, suspense, mystery kind of books. But I've read about a dozen in the last 2 months.
Holy cow, that's a lot of books in 2 months, especially if you're writing and working and all the rest of it. But anyway, Leanne, I want to thank you very much for being on. Everybody who's watching the show, you know what to do. Hit the like, hit the share, blah, 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 all that stuff. Thank you so much, Leanne, for coming on. Everybody go buy her book. It's down there somewhere. The leannecarman.com is where you can find Leanne anyway. And I'm sure there's information on there somewhere about her books. Leanne, we end the show in one way. I just need you to wave bye-bye to everybody. And I'll hit the end broadcast. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.